With the release of Godzilla Kong The New Empire, I'm going to rank all 7 MonsterVerse projects. In last place, you have Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now, on paper, this story could work. There's a lot of elements in here that could really work. You get to show all these monsters, Godzilla being king of the monsters, stuff like that. All of that works on paper, but the way the movie executes the story just doesn't work because it focuses on the human characters. The human characters in these MonsterVerse movies are extremely unlikable, and no one goes into these movies wanting human characters. It's because of that, these monsters barely are in this story. The human story ruins this entire movie, and everything that could work on paper is just ruined by that human storyline. A lot of people do like this movie though because of like all these Titan monsters all over the place. Again, that on paper works. It's just the way the story was executed that I was not a fan of. In 6th place, you have Godzilla Vs Kong. Now, don't get me wrong. This movie is a ton of fun watching Godzilla and Kong fight each other. But the same thing with Godzilla King of the Monsters. It runs into the human problem. Not as much. There is a lot more monsters in this movie. The human storyline is most of the movie in here. And with these unlikable characters, it's really hard to enjoy that part of the story, which is about 75% of the movie. But when we actually get to Godzilla vs. Kong and all the monster fights, that's exactly what works, because that's what we went for the movie for. That's what's paid off. A ton of fun like that. Everything you want to see is delivered in that moment. Just, human storyline's not as bad as King of the Monsters, but it's still in here. Unlike King of the Monsters, I do like this movie. It's just, could have been handled better. But I do enjoy seeing Godzilla and Kong fight each other. In 5th place, we have Skull Island. I enjoyed it. This one's called Skull Island. There's not a lot of Kong in it, but it doesn't say Kong Skull Island, which we will get to. For this show, it's enjoyable. You can have fun with it. I feel like this show actually does a good job at fleshing out these human characters and having you care for them mostly. I am interested in the season 2 if they do one because I enjoyed it not much. My only problem with the show though is that it's not fully enjoyable. There's some bits in here that's like, do we need that? We can kind of skip over this, but other than that, pretty enjoyable show. I would recommend it if you have not seen it yet. But speaking of show, 4th place we have the Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Now, for the most part, I do really enjoy this show. I love all like the plot points they have and like the events of G-Day followed by that. I love all those plot points, and again, since it's a show, it spends time fleshing out these characters to the point that we actually care for them, for the most part. So, that part did a good job. My main problems though, that for the finale, I feel like the show, for the most part, didn't really seem the finale would be that way. I enjoyed the finale. I'm interested in the season 2 as well because of the way everything kind of left off too. Another problem is that we're jumping around time too much. I feel like there was a way to cut it down so that we're not back in 1950s, back to the present, 3 years earlier. Timeline's all messed up. I feel like there's a way better way of telling the story instead of just jumping around times like that to a point where it can be confusing. But I enjoy the show. But in 3rd place, you have Godzilla 2014. Now, the first half of this movie I did really enjoy. I enjoyed the character development in there. I did when Godzilla finally came on screen. I enjoyed all that. But for a movie called Godzilla, Godzilla's barely in this movie, which is basically almost all of these MonsterVerse movies, but he's in it very little. But when he is in it though, pretty cool. But I actually care for these human characters a little bit, and I like the journey they go on, and I like the journey with Godzilla for the world being introduced to these monsters. I do like that storyline. I enjoy bits in here. It's enjoyable enough. But in 2nd place, you have Kong Skull Island. Now, for a movie called Kong Skull Island, again, Kong is barely in this movie. But again, like Godzilla 2014, I feel like the characters in this movie are fleshed out better so that you're actually able to care for them. And Kong is just, I find, cooler than Godzilla, so of course I would prefer his movie more. Just like the plot points in here and different storylines with like these creatures coming out from under the ground that Kong was protecting all this time. I enjoy all that. I find this movie to be fun as well. It's just a fun time. That's basically all of these movies. But number one for me is Godzilla Kong the New Empire. In my opinion, this movie fixes all of the problems that we had with everything else I just mentioned on here. Kong has like character development in here, has his own journey he goes on. This movie is basically his movie, but I enjoy that because we actually get to see character development in Kong himself. And I feel like this movie doesn't focus too much on the human storyline this time around. I feel like they're improving it and really making it better because, in my opinion, this movie spent more time with Kong than it did with the human characters. Now, the human storyline is still in here for about 35 minutes of the movie, but it spends a lot more time with Kong and Godzilla. Well, not so much Godzilla, but with Kong. You can enjoy it a lot more because of that. And seeing Godzilla and Kong team up at the end of the movie, best parts of the film out right there. Now, but I enjoy this movie a lot for the monster fun it has, and you get to basically almost see the monsters throughout this entire movie, and when they finally team up at the end, it's worth everything. So that's why this movie is at number one for me. But anyways, that was my ranking of all 7 MonsterVerse projects. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button and comment down below your ranking down in the comment section below. And if this video interests you, maybe these ones on the side will too. But with that, thank you guys for watching.